You are Locked On Pistons Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Woo! It's never easy, but the Pistons get a much-needed win on the second night of a back-to-back, defeating the Portland Trail Blazers 119-112. Welcome into a live Locked On Pistons postcast. I am your host, Jake Riepma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma, formerly with 97.1 The Ticket, the Pistons flagship radio station, now with Locked On Sports Detroit, and couldn't be more fired up to be with you because this is your home for all things Detroit sports post game. That's right. It is the postcast, and it's all part of Locked On Sports Detroit, your team each and every day. Don't forget that your favorite podcast now is a newsletter. That's right. Introducing the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter. You can check it out at lockedondaily.com. Sign up for free. Shout out to Koo on the Locked On Pistons daily show, Locked On Pistons. Make sure you check it out. And of course, here's what we've got coming up on today's show. After a much needed win, the Pistons found a way. 2-2 West Coast road trip, coming back home at 500 with wins on the bookend. So we'll recap that. I'll have my turning point for you as well as our player of the game. So buckle up and dial it in because it's all coming up on a live Locked On Pistons post-game show. If you're up late with us, go ahead and get in the comments because I know those West Coast games aren't easy, but alas, the Pistons are back at home for their next contest when the Wizards come to town on Tuesday. So back to the regular times. Looking forward to that. I know my body clock's looking forward to that as well. There's some late nights, but this was a game the Pistons had to have. Make no mistake about it. And when talking with a buddy about this game leading up to it, it's hey, good teams go out and win this game. Good teams understand that, yeah, you're going to have setbacks. You're going to have losses like the Pistons had last night, and you're going to have nights where things spiral on you and you get a technical foul against Steph Curry and you end up on the internet. That happens. But how do you respond? How do you come back and show some resiliency and get back in the win column? Second night of a back-to-back. Last night of a long West Coast road trip, all things that were in some cases working against you, but at the same time were characteristics of a good team that comes back and wins this game against an inferior opponent in the Portland Trail Blazers, who had been playing teams really tough and playing Cleveland tough, had worked their way to being a not necessarily a cakewalk and showing up to the arena just laying down for teams. So I think the Pistons withstood the rally from the Portland Trail Blazers at times in that fourth quarter. I wasn't so sure if they were going to be able to. I mean, between Simmons and a couple of the Portland Trail Blazers, of course, our old friend Jeremy Grant with 25 points, 34 for Simmons, by the way. And so just an onslaught of athletic guys that were had the ability to score for Portland, and the Pistons down the stretch made stops. And some of it was, poor shooting by the Portland Trail Blazers. The last couple of sequences there, some open looks for Portland, and I'm holding my breath as the ball clangs off the rim. And with the Pistons up by 3, there was a couple of good looks at the rim that the Trailblazers got. Unfortunately, sometimes, it's as simple as, hey, the opposition didn't make the shots and the Pistons come away with the win. But doesn't have to be pretty. You don't have to draw a picture on the scorecard. As they say, you just either put a W or an L, and the Pistons got the win. Got a little chippy at times because it always does. Cade Cunningham had a little technical foul action there. That's going to happen. But I thought he responded well. And, unlike some of the other technical fouls, and I talk about this at length with this team, it's a point of contention from times, but at the end of the day, it's about winning basketball games. And tonight, I didn't feel like Cade's technical deterred the Pistons, whereas you look at last night, and obviously, the result is simplifying it enough. You lost last night, you win tonight. And that being said, I still wish this team would, play 48 minutes without having the times where they come what feels like coming unraveled. And I'm not insinuating or suggesting that Cade's technical was an example of coming unraveled, but it was, one more as I'm watching in that game and it happens, I'm thinking, oh no, not again. Got to find a way to come out and get a victory in this game. And they did. So kudos to the Detroit Pistons for doing exactly that. With the win, the Pistons are now an impressive, and again, we talk about it all the time, overachieving 36-29. And don't look now, but just a game behind Milwaukee in the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference Finals. Indiana still, or in the Eastern Conference playoff race. Indiana Pacers ahead of the Pistons as well. But those two teams, the Bucks and the Pacers, barely ahead of the Pistons. So plenty of basketball left to continue this playoff push and climb up those standings to maybe even be a top 4 seed, which would be absolutely insane. But that's exciting stuff to think about. And when you keep winning basketball games, that's the position you put yourself in. It was great to see Tobias Harris back in the lineup for the Detroit Pistons. He goes for 20 points. Go ahead and make him plus 12 for the game as well. 9 rebounds. He was interviewed by Johnny Kane afterwards, and he talked just about staying together, staying the course. And I think that is what you would say about this game tonight for the Detroit Pistons. They stayed the course. That is what it was all about. They were staying the course. And when you look back about this win over the Portland Trailblazers, 119-112, that is what everyone's going to be talking about.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Staying the course, finding a way to win, and getting a much-needed road win, a gritty, gutsy road win that wasn't pretty, but in the end, you got the W. And it was a testament to some of the role players that stepped up in this one. I mentioned Tobias Harris, and yes, I wouldn't call him a role player when you're counting on him to be the second scorer, but having been without Tobias Harris for several games in a row there, it was great to get him back in the lineup. But how about Dennis Schroeder getting a couple of baskets down the stretch? He only had 12 points, but some of them came in the most clutch moments down the stretch there to help the Pistons get the win. And of course, 28 points for Cade Cunningham. He was 9 of 17 from the floor, 8 of 9 from the free throw line. The Pistons 24 of 32 from the stripe, and there were a couple of instances they missed free throws. I thought, oh boy, is that going to come back and cost them? And fortunately, it did not. But the Pistons get the win. In addition to the productive play from Tobias, Cade Cunningham, Dennis Schroeder. I thought Jalen Duren was good tonight as well. 7 of 10 from the floor. Had a couple of big second chance points that really helped the Pistons. 18 points in total and 12 rebounds as well. So a nice double-double for Jalen Duren. Want to get to your comments, because if you stayed up late, you deserve your comment to be read. There is no doubt about that. Alan Humphrey is first up. He says, yo, Demetrius McNeil checking in. That's one way to bounce back from a tough loss to the Warriors. Earlier today, Michigan State used their defense to make life miserable for Michigan. Final Four, perhaps. No doubt, Michigan State, I watched that on an airplane today, and Michigan State looked really good against Michigan. And, of course, we're going to be talking about the incident at the end of the game, because that's always the case when Michigan and Michigan State play. And whatever sport, it doesn't matter. But we won't. I digress. We only have 15 minutes. I won't get into all the Michigan State antics down the stretch there. Jay Wow is up next, on our way to another extended win streak. Let's hope. And that's a good point, because Tobias Harris also talked about that after the game, that a 2-game win streak with this team, this is where you're noticing the difference with this team. You're noticing the turnaround, that this team is not like years past where it would snowball and these streaks would add up to, multiple double-digit losing streaks in a season. You just can't have that. And Tobias Harris talked about the concerted effort of if you've lost 2 in a row, you never want it to get to 3. And ending that streak tonight was extremely important for the morale of this team, for the psyche of this team. And again, with the risk of sounding like a broken record, they went out and got it done at the Moda Center in Portland tonight. So huge win for the Detroit Pistons. You love the way you had multiple players contributing on the offensive end, 6 players in total in double figures. Got to make sure I have that right. 20 for Tobias Harris, 13 for Tim Hardaway, 18 for Jalen Duren, Cade Cunningham with 28, and then 12 with Dennis Schroeder, and 10 for Malik Beasley. And so that being said, you gotta give a lot of credit to this Pistons team, to JB Bickerstaff, and having his guys ready to go. Don't go anywhere. I'll have my turning point of this game, the player of the game, and we'll tie a bow on it and take a look at the remaining schedule, who's coming up next, all that and more on a live Locked On Pistons postcast here on Locked On Sports Detroit. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Pistons postcast is brought to you by DoorDash. That's right. Don't forget about DoorDash, because NBA fans, listen up. You get ready, because when they swoosh, you save. Thanks to DoorDash Pass. Every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. That's Dash Pass. It's real simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the season, that Dash Pass member gets 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Once again, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day if a player scores 50 points in an NBA game. Here's why I love the Dash Pass, my friends. You got those late night cravings. Like tonight, the Pistons are out west at the late night game. So if you're staying up watching highlights or just dialed in and need that midnight snack, you got to use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. Maybe you're having a watch party. You got to fuel that watch party, my friends. If you're planning to catch the next game, order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount and get ready for more high-scoring action. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. This episode of the Locked On Pistons postcast is also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. March Madness is here. It's my favorite time of year, my friends. FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's cutting down the nets. That's right. Put a future in. It'll be exciting. I love staying in the action with FanDuel. And tournament time, it's the best time of the year because, yes, you can fill out the brackets, and that's a lot of fun. Get in on the office wheel, sure. But when games are happening in the very second, I love to live bet it on FanDuel.com. It's got everything you need right there. Maybe you want to take a second half over. You want to root for the under. Whatever it may be, get in on the action with America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Cruising right along on a live Locked On Pistons postcast with the Pistons beating the Portland Trailblazers 112-119. And how about this? Let's get right into it. It's time for the turning point in tonight's
Time
game.
to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
I think this game was about the Pistons' resiliency. I think it was about their effort on the defensive end. It was a defensive battle in that fourth quarter. I mean, the Pistons didn't exactly shoot the lights out by any means. Neither did Portland. Just 26 points for Portland, 22 for the Pistons in that fourth quarter. But down the stretch, when the defense had to turn up for the Pistons, it did. So my turning point in this game was the collective effort from the Pistons to hold down the fort and preserve the victory late in that fourth quarter. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't exactly how you draw it up, but getting a win on the road is never easy, and the Pistons made the plays to do exactly that tonight. So the turning point tonight, the fourth quarter defense from the Detroit Pistons, combined with just enough offense en route to the win. As for my player of the game, let's get right into it.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Always so exciting when you hear that go off. It's like, oh my goodness. Player of the game, Locked On Pistons, postcast player of the game, Cade Cunningham, 28 points, 9 of 17 shooting, 2 of 4 from the long line, 8 of 9 from the stripe, and go ahead and give him 5 assists as well. It wasn't his best game by any means, but in a game the Pistons had to have him, Cade Cunningham was there offensively, leading the team 28 points. And again, this was a concerted effort from the entire team as far as equal and balanced scoring. Again, you got 6 players in double figures. You got the bench for the Pistons really showing up big with 38 points or 35 points for the Pistons bench, which includes 10 from Malik Beasley, 12 from Schroeder, and a combined 13 between Stewart with 5, Fontecchio with 5, and 3 for Ronald Hollins. So that being said, again, this was a sign. This was a growth game for the Detroit Pistons. Could they bounce back in the second night of a back-to-back? Could they go out, get a win against a struggling Portland team, but not necessarily struggling, but an inferior team talent-wise, the Portland Trail Blazers, who had played some teams tough, but go out, get the win, 119-112, and live to fight another day. Come on home. You've got a favorable schedule coming up when you look at 2 games at home against the Wizards, who are actively tanking and just not a good basketball team. Dare I say a terrible basketball team. So those are 2 winnable games. The Thunder come to town. Hey, that's going to be tough, but it's going to be a lot of fun. You want your shot at the best, and that will be the final game of the mini 3-game homestand. That game on Saturday before the Pistons hit the road to take on the Pelicans on Monday, followed by the Miami Heat next Wednesday. So upcoming schedule is as follows: 2 home games against the Wizards on Tuesday and Thursday. The Thunder come to town on Saturday, hit the road for New Orleans on Monday against the Pelicans, and then the Heat on Wednesday, followed by Friday in Dallas. So March 21st against the Mavericks, who at this, I think, have 7 active players because of all the injuries that they've been facing. But that'll do it for me on a live Locked On Pistons. Let me make sure I get every comment in here for those that stayed up late. Keon TV is on our Locked On Pistons postcast saying Detroit back to the winning ways. You got to love it. Shout out to you, Keon. And shout out to everybody that tunes in and night out. I sincerely appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit. Tell a friend about the Locked On Postcast. It's a live reaction post-game show after Detroit sporting events. Pistons right now, of course, and man, have they been a lot of fun. Don't forget, we got Locked On Tigers postcast coming up in just a little bit, and some exciting things brewing at Locked On as a company as a whole. So it's my pleasure to bring you all the action. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to check out LockedOnDaily.com, because on LockedOnDaily.com, you can subscribe to the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter for your ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox for free. That's LockedOnDaily.com. Check out Locked On Pistons and have a wonderful rest of your night. And we'll see you next time on Locked On Sports Detroit.